Good morning, everyone. Welcome to IBS IS Academy. Today, we're going to deal with India Pakistan relationships. So, this is the concept of international relations, and it will be beneficial for general studies as well as political sciences and international relations optional. I'm Ashok, master's graduate from IIT Kharagpur, and I have been working as an assistant professor at IBS IS Academy. I have been training UPSC aspirants since the past 6 years. I'm also an author. I have written 3 books for UPSC Civil Services examination. So, on science and technology and environment and ecology. So, let's get into the concept. So, the way we are going to deal with international relations is when it comes to the bilateral relationship between India and Pakistan, first we will be understanding the history and the development of the relationship between the two countries. And after the independence, so how it actually progressed, what are the significant events which played a very decisive factor in determining the relationship between the two countries, and what other countries are actually involved in just cooking up the relationship between two countries. So this is what we are going to study, and we are going to study about the present issues as well as the possible solutions it may have, right? So first one, independence movement. Initially, the Pakistan was a part of India. The Pakistan was a part of India, and it was divided because of the partition plan that was put forth by the Lord Mountbatten. So because of which the two geographical territories from the east and the west were given to the Pakistan, and they were named as East Pakistan and the West Pakistan, right? So we'll see what actually led to the creation of Pakistan during the freedom movement, because the one of the significant event during the freedom movement is 1857 Sepoy Mutiny. So during the Sepoy Mutiny, so both the Muslims as well as the Hindus came together and fought the common enemy. So that has played a very significant role in actually creating a ground for a unification of people irrespective of their religious differences. But gradually, the division between the Hindus and the Muslims has grown too far that the Muslims have asked for an independent nation. So, what actually led to that? So, we'll see. In 1885, Indian National Congress actually got founded, right? And after that, the Indian National Congress played a very significant role, but not as significant as it came thereafter. Initially, it was a kind of a petitioning organ. So whatever they want, if you want the representation, it is only just for just giving the petitions. That's all, not more than that. But gradually, the active form of independence movement actually progressed with Lal Balpal. So we'll see in 1905 for the first time, because the people, the intellectuals from the Bengal are actually increasing and they are protesting against the government, and the British actually followed the divide and rule policy and divided the Bengal based upon the religion, the East Bengal and the West Bengal. East Bengal with the majority of the Muslims and the West Bengal with the majority of the Muslims. So Bengal partition happened in 1905, done by the Lord Curzon, and the partition along the religious lines leads to the initial development of the Muslim political separatism. So this is what actually happened. In 1906, the division and rule policy still continued. So in 1906, after the division, the All India Muslim League was actually founded in the Bengal, right? All India Muslim League, that is the political party representing all of the Muslims, right? And the primary aim is to secure adequate Muslim political representation based on separate electorate. So they asked for separate electorate. Separate electorate means only Muslims vote for Muslims, right? If a particular geographical area has been specifically for the Muslim population, only the Muslims will vote for that individual, none of the other religious people. So, and separate electorate was actually given to Muslims in 1909, Parliamentary reforms. Separate electorate was considered by the government. And in 1919, so we thought of forging a permanent Hindu-Muslim nationalistic political alliance, but Jinnah has viewed this approach to be too radical and breaks with the Gandhi and resigns from the Congress. In 1909, in 1919, so to forge the relation between Hindus and the Muslims, the Gandhi has started Khilafat movement. right? Gandhi has started Khilafat movement, and Jinnah being a secular, did not really like this idea and broke with Mahatma Gandhi and resigned from the Congress. And in 1923 to 28, so after the suspension of the non-cooperation movement, has renewed the competition between the Hindus and the Muslims for the seats of the new provincial councils. New provincial councils have been established, so there is a competition between Hindus and Muslims who will get the majority. And the Muslim leaders began to move away from the Congress as it comes under mounting pressure from the Hindu fundamentalist organizations as well. So there were Hindu fundamentalist organizations which doesn't want to concede any of the Muslim political demands, which actually increased the divide between the Hindus and the Muslims during the time period. And in 1935 and 39, so even though there is an increasing pressure to pass the Government of India Act of 1935, and even though it has increased the significant proportion of the self-government, right? In the elections that has followed after the Government of India Act of 1935, the Muslims did not even get the 5% of the votes, which further enhanced the gap between the Hindus and the Muslims. And in 1940, for the first time in the Lahore session, the All India Muslim League has put forth the two-nation theory, right? So the Muslim League had thought that because of the dominance of the Hindu, the Muslim voice will never reach. So because of that, the Muhammad Ali Jinnah has actually thought of two nation theory, and the idea of two nation theory was put forth in the Lahore session 1940. So this is important. So this is important for us. Okay. So that is two nation theory. Just a minute. Yes. Right. In 1947, ultimately the British decided to bring the departure, because initially it was thought to be in 1948. The British has to transfer the power in 1948, but immediately after the partition plan is proposed, the communal clashes started across all over India, and because the British doesn't want the blood on its hands, so it preponed the transfer of power and said within the next 2 months we are going to transfer the power, right? And because of this, the partition was done on very fast basis, and the lines were drawn with the boundary between the India and the Pakistan was drawn within just 2 days. So because of this, about 15 million people had to migrate, and there is no proper plan how the migration has to happen, how the people are to be transported across the borders. So we have no clue. And about 15 million people were uprooted from their villages, and they have migrated endlessly to the Indian subcontinent and away from the subcontinent, right? And there are a few facts of the partition. You can just pause it and read them. And in 1947, so after the communal clashes and after the bloodshed happened in 1947 with the partition, so there were three princely states which were in an ambiguity whether to be a part of India or not. Those were Junagadh, Hyderabad, and Jammu and Kashmir, right? So Junagadh and Hyderabad had ultimately become the part of India, whereas the Jammu and Kashmir wanted to be an independent, and we have respected that. And immediately after that, so after Jammu and Kashmir wanted to be independent, the tribals of Pakistan, right, Pakistan Northwestern Frontier Province, started to invade the Jammu and Kashmir, and then the Maharaja of Jammu and Kashmir, Raja Hari Singh, has asked for India for help. Right? India said, yes, we will definitely help, but you will have to sign the instrument of accession. So once the Jammu and Kashmir becomes a part of India, then definitely we will protect the Jammu and Kashmir. So after the proposal was put, the Maharaja Hari Singh has accepted to sign the instrument of accession, provided after the Pakistan was thrown out from the Jammu and Kashmir, the referendum has to be conducted. Right? A plebiscite has to be conducted and let the people decide whether they want to be a part of India or not. So the Nehru was very confident that the Jammu and Kashmir people always wanted to be a part of India. So that's why Nehru accepted for that referendum, and he wrote a letter to the United Nations that the Pakistan is the aggravating aggressive nation coming onto India, and immediately it has to be stopped so that we can go for the referendum. And the United Nations resolution was actually given. United Nations resolution was actually given, and it has asked for the ceasefire. And the first condition in the referendum is that the Pakistan has to demilitarize. Right? Pakistan has to demilitarize the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and provided the first condition is satisfied, the India can maintain the troops in Jammu and Kashmir only for the defensive purposes. And once both the conditions are satisfied, then the plebiscite has to be conducted. And Pakistan never demilitarized the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, so we never conducted plebiscite. Right? That is the United Nations referendum. And after the conflict of 1947 on the Kashmir, in 1965, the second war broke between India and the Pakistan. Second war broke between India and the Pakistan. So what can be the reason? So in 1962, we had a war with China. And after the war with China, after the India decisively lost in the war, so India was perceived to be the weaker nation. So the Pakistan thought it is the better chance for us to start fighting against India, right? And also occupy Jammu and Kashmir. So that was the right time for it. So in 1965, the first conflict has actually started with Ran of Kutch, right? On the issue of Ran of Kutch of Gujarat. So initially they first started the war in the Ran of Kutch region to see the India's reaction. And because the India's reaction is a bit softer, so the Pakistan has got the confirmation that India to be the weaker nation, and it started the Operation Gibraltar. It started the Operation Gibraltar. So the Operation Gibraltar is nothing but about 30,000 military personnel, right? About 30,000 military personnel of terrorists as well as the military personnel of the Pakistan have been infiltrated into Jammu and Kashmir as locals. And the plan is to infiltrate Jammu and Kashmir and to start a revolt against the government of India. So they want to make the people of Jammu and Kashmir revolt against the government of India. That was the Operation Gibraltar. But the Operation Gibraltar was a disaster for Pakistan because the local population supported, and for the first time we have won the war with indifference between the Hindus and the Muslims, right? So the people of Jammu and Kashmir has supported India, right? So in that way, the Operation Gibraltar has, and after that, the Indo-Pakistan war has actually started after we got to know about the Operation Gibraltar from the locals, and the full-scale war started, and we have thrown away the Pakistanis from Jammu and Kashmir, right? And that has resulted in the Tashkent Declaration after the conflict. So the Russia has come for the arbitration, the mediation between the Jammu and Kashmir, and we call it Tashkent Declaration, right? So at that time, the Lal Bahadur Shastri was the Prime Minister of India, and Lal Bahadur Shastri went for the negotiation of the Tashkent Declaration. And so as for the Tashkent Declaration, we have to move our forces back to pre-war positions. We had to move our forces to pre-war positions, and this Tashkent Declaration has been criticized by the opposition as well as the political elite of India, because most of the strategic positions occupied by India during this Indo-Pakistan war were to be given back to the Pakistan, as well as there is no war pact. So there is an omission of no war pact, because of which Tashkent Declaration was criticized in India. And the next war between India and Pakistan was actually on the issue of East Pakistan. On the issue of East Pakistan, we call it Bangladesh Liberation War. We call it Bangladesh Liberation War. There were many differences between the East Bangladesh and the West Bangladesh, and the government based upon the West Pakistan was ruling a geographical territory in East Pakistan, which is administration is a kind of difficult, as well as the revenue share was not proportional, as well as the ideological differences. There were ideological differences, but despite of all these, for about 20 years, the Pakistan were ruled by the Muslim elite of the West Pakistan. And for the first time in 1971, the conducted the Pakistan conducted the elections based upon the universal adult franchise in 1971. It has conducted the elections based upon the universal adult franchise in this political party based upon the East Pakistan has won with the supreme majority. Awami League, headed by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Awami League, headed by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. So immediately they had to transfer the power to the majority party, which the military elite doesn't want to do so. So the military has sent the forces to the East Pakistan, and it has killed all the intelligentsia, as well as indiscriminately raped the people and indiscriminately killed the people, right? And the resistance force has been formed to fight against the military. We call it Mukti Bahini, and it was supported by India. And later the full scale war has actually started between India and the Pakistan, because the Pakistan doesn't want India, because the Pakistan doesn't want India to be the part of the Bangladesh liberation war. So that's why the full scale war has actually started, and in that the East Pakistan has become independent and named as Bangladesh, and India has become the first nation to recognize Bangladesh to be an independent nation. And after the war, we have gone for the Shimla Agreement. So as for the Shimla Agreement, there are two important clauses. The first one is the ceasefire line is to be called line of control. Ceasefire line is to be called line of control. And later, and the other important thing, neither of the countries can unilaterally change the line of control. Neither of the parties can unilaterally change the line of control, as well as both the nations have to resolve any disputes bilaterally, right? So bilaterally by the peaceful means. So both the countries, whatever the dispute that may be, that has to be addressed through the peaceful bilateral negotiation. These are the two important clauses as per the Shimla Agreement, which we have been using even now. So even when the Article 370 was actually removed, the British has actually, Pakistan has actually raised the voice in United Nations, and we said, as per the Shimla Agreement, no third party can actually interfere. If you have a problem with India, you have to talk to us. And in 1974, Operation Smiling Buddha has actually started, and India has tested the nuclear missiles. The Operation Smiling Buddha, or as Pokhran 1, is the India testing its nuclear weapons. In 1988, the two countries signed the agreement that neither will attack the nuclear facilities of India or the Pakistan. Neither countries will attack. And since that particular time, every year we are actually transferring the information of the nuclear installations. Every year we will be giving the nuclear installations list, and as per the 1988 agreement, so no country should attack, or should neither of the sides should attack the nuclear installation facilities. And in 1991, just a minute, yes.
So, what is suicide? Something which you are doing.
Hmm.
What is it?
Repeat the key.
Yeah.
So in 1991, both the countries have signed an agreement in providing advance notification of all the military exercises or the maneuvers of the troop movements, as well as preventing airspace violations between both the nations. And in 1992, a joint declaration on the prohibition of the use of chemical weapons was signed in New Delhi. So neither of the countries have to should use the chemical weapons in any kind of a crisis. And also, India is a signatory of the Chemicals Weapons Convention, that the prohibition, the manufacturing and distribution in any form of the chemical weapons or the biological weapons for that matter is completely banned. India is a signatory and also ratified both the agreements. And in 1984, so the Operation Meghadut has been conducted. So that we will be discussing in the next class.